everyone. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk on Win TV. I'm Jada Ingleton, your content editor for the Washington Informer, filling in today for, as we call her, our fearless publisher, Denise Rolock Barnes.
Buy land, they can't make any more.
When you got land, you're in a different game.
Just looking at it from, the past 100, 150 years, Black land ownership has declined significantly.
I got offered $3 million for this property twice, and I turned it down. Farmland in a city, you're like the outdated version of where we're going.
Eminent domain is the power of an entity, usually government, to acquire private property and put it to a public use.
You can play hardball all day, but if we can't come to a negotiation or agreement, the government has the right to go in and say, hey, we're doing this for the health and safety of our residents, and then you won't get anything.
Decline prosecution. What do I need to have an attorney for? It's no case between me and him. It's over. Where's my property?
I was on house arrest for 6 months with an ankle bracelet and had an $80,000 bond.
I don't understand why he was arrested.
Wow. Okay, it leaves a lot to ask, a lot to wonder. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm here with Brannu and Adelin Gasana. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, first things first, tell our audience not only what inspired this film, but what is it really about?
Well, Brandon Fulton is the classic American story, the proverbial American story, Western rugged frontiersman with cattle and ranch. And, he's the lone ranger, underdog playing against all the odds. And this documentary is essentially a purview of his 10-year journey, going up against everything. His fight to keep, preserve, and build on his own land. And January 1st of this year was 10 years that he owned that property. Mm-hmm. And here's a guy who faced all the slings and arrows coming from all directions, and he's there standing on his own. And so we wanted to highlight that from beginning to end and present it to our growing audience.
So how did you two first get connected?
All the credit goes to my producer, Julia Griggs. Here in Atlanta, we have a loop called the Beltline. And it's a pedestrian walkway. And lo and behold, Brandon was on his horse on the Beltline. And that's something you don't forget. Kind of like a guy who fell out of the sky, right? Yeah. And she had conversations with him and thought there was something much more in there. And then on top of him, giving rides and doing his trail rides and moving around the city with his horse, he said that he had land in the city of South Fulton of 27 acres worth. And so there was much more to that. And she knew me as a documentary filmmaker in my previous work and wanted to see if there was something there to showcase and put together. Originally, it was for kind of a news segment aspect to it. And then the more we talked, the more we did our research, we thought there was much more layers to make this a feature documentary film.
And to that point, what is it? Obviously, with a full documentary, you can be a little bit more in depth and detailed. But when we talk about maybe that power of storytelling and creative art to tell stories and preserve history, how did you kind of see that element show up with this specific project?
Oh, it's just that being a character-driven plot. Brandon, in many ways, everything he's gone through from the legal standpoint, and as well as the reality of the moment in his environment. It's all the symbolism. We go into themes of gentrification. We go into themes of eminent domain, the themes of rapid urbanization, which really affects all of us. And, he's in prime real estate. And, in many ways, Brandon really is symbolic toward the what I call the juxtaposition of 21st century social economics. That's really just a fancy way of saying he represents the old and the young, the new and the old, the urban and the rural. And so this idea of what communities look like and whether we're on this crossroads of how we identify as neighborhoods and growing neighborhoods at that. And there's a place for people like Brandon Fulton and what he represents as far as urban agriculture, horse rides, ranching life, in that sense. And he'll go into depth on his vision, his dream for the land. And we thought that a documentary film was just the perfect venue to take layer by layer and unveil all these deeper themes to get a nuanced perspective on this subject and the story.
Absolutely. And Brannu, if I could bring you in here, I want to know, how did specifically kind of your, I guess, your upbringing allow you to get to a point as an older person where it's not just something you care about, but something that you actively try and dedicate your life's work to?
But it was something I was introduced to growing up in Brownsville in Brooklyn, New York. Uh, I had access to it very little through my grandfather taking me to a horseback riding place called Jamaica Bay. And because he was my only outlet to do it, to get to the facility, there was no other like programs, or I didn't have no resources to keep me in it. So kind of like something that faded. I had to fade out my mind. So I tried a lot of other things, sports, martial arts, just hanging around the neighborhood. And I never really forgot how it made me feel. And it led me to, I guess, bury it because I had to, not because I wanted to. Then I got into the music, and then the music DJing took off for me. Started doing well with that, DJing for known artists and going on tours. DJing when I went to Clark, Atlanta, hanging around Biz Markie a lot, doing a lot of, big time, I would say gigs that would take people a long time. Like I did All Star Weekend and Magic Johnson Weekend, things like that, Playboy Mansion, SB Awards, because I was rolling with him. And even though I had access to all of that, I've been on BET and stuff, I still felt I was doing it, I enjoyed it, but it still wasn't like completely fulfilling me being around that audience. You know what I mean? Being around that lifestyle. I wasn't really driven like I want the big watch, I want the Rolex, I want the Ferrari. I just enjoyed the craft of DJing. So during the tour, I was with Jaquan. We was in Tijuana, and I saw a guy with a whole bunch of horses. He didn't look rich or wealthy. Like it was taught to me in Brooklyn that you got to be this wealthy or have a certain title to have horses. And it just clicked right there. It was like my reality and where my heart was. And it was easy for me to decide like which one made me feel good, you know, because I already lived that nightlife. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything. So that's why nowadays I've been there. So it doesn't really, I'm not thrilled because I really know what it feels like for me. I don't know, other people, they may thrive for it and keep wanting to make albums and be on stages, but I'd rather just ride. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, you raise a good point. It's not just in Brooklyn. Even I'm from Florida, and I kind of had that same idea, like horses
Yeah.
are where the wealthy people are. And it brings me to that point because I think that's also kind of part of the parallel of this film, is kind of erasing that narrative. Like, no, this, that side of life, that side of the country life is a Black thing as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? How has, either of you, either in the process of putting this together or just in life, seen the importance of kind of defying these stereotypes?
Well, that's part of the whole documentary of how everything I'm going through is a stereotype. It's a image it's a false image that a place has to look a certain way, a certain person has to look a certain way, and the animal must always look a certain way, which is unrealistic. Even when we take a glimpse at Animal Planet, basic animal stations, just look. Not every lion is fat. You have some that's not as thick as others, and um, even if you look at Google right now, wild horses, you'll see them fighting and biting each other and getting injured and stuff like that. If we Google Kentucky Derby, you'll see how many horses died in the past 2 years at the famous race of the world, where all the wealthy people are, which they should have access to the best of the best. So how do they horses still break legs and still die? It's just like when it's a person like me, from my experience, it's it's like a group of people that don't really want to see a person like me excel in that industry, and they're looking for that one common thing that they know that they even experience with horses to be the reason to say, because they know they could play off the ignorance of the majority. Because I always tell people this: 85% of the population is deaf, dumb, and blind. 10% is controlling us, and 5% really know what's going on. So the poor righteous teachers, I would say, who has less resources but can see everything, we're going against 95% of the population. We know what's really happening. 10% is controlling 90%, meaning the 5% and the 85%. It's a small group of people that's dictating how you should think, right? Right now, if you go in the stores, you see Easter clothes. And a few weeks after that, you're going to see whatever the next holiday. It's like a program, right? And so the documentary really, I got caught up in that because I don't come from a last name that's respected. I have to earn everything, right? I was just in DC, right down the block from the Capitol. Trucks was doing construction, rolling dirt all down the street. When people come on my driveway, they want to give me a ticket because dirt rolls on the street. Now I'm right in front of the White House, the Capitol, and they're doing construction, dirt flinging all down the street. Because to build infrastructure, it's going to take that, right? But most of us don't know what it's like to build something out the dirt. Most of us, we wait till our house is built. We wait till the precinct is built. We wait till the library is built. Then we get access. We're not on site. And I'm building this from the ground up. This is not a hand-down ranch. This is not a hand-down horse. It's like everything I've had to start from the beginning. And those beginnings is where they can use the ignorance of the 85%. The 10% knows what it takes. But since they already built their ranches and their courthouses, they don't have to go through the building and everything. So 85%, they're blinded. They don't know. And that's the emotions that they're playing off of those people, because that's who votes for you, right? If you're a politician.
And Brandon, I would add to that is part of what what resonates with people who watch the documentary so far is the power of dreams. And oftentimes that power of dreams breaks through the crux of stereotypes. And so here's a guy like Brandon Fulton, who's a product of his environment of Brownsville, Brooklyn, growing up in those conditions. And yeah, he's going full circle into that moment of wanting giving his ranch that dream to at-risk kids who live on the other side of the block. And the very fact that he was on this divine mission, as he calls it, in the sense of wanting to build and knowing horse life is calling. And so that was one of the leitmotifs throughout this film that people can resonate with, is that here's a guy who just went all in on this and knowing that he's moving to the path of righteousness.
Absolutely. So were there any challenges that you guys faced in the process of filming?
Challenges here and there, but more so it's the biggest thing in documentary filmmaking, I always tell folks, is that as above money, as important money is access. And the very fact that Brandon opened themselves up to me and my producer Julia Griggs to tell his story, that was the biggest benchmark of all. And then more so it's just really just kind of how we're going to navigate the political the focus of this documentary. Because at the end of the day, we want this documentary to be a bridge builder and allow Brandon to have a better relationship with Fulton County as well as the city of South Fulton. So those are the kind of balancing act that we wanted to make, is that as much as he went through in these 10 years and the legal battles, and which he still is dealing with, we wanted there to be some type of meeting at the minds where we can come to the table and come up with an agreement and a better relationship, so he can so all sides can be better represented in what this community is going to look like.
Excellent. And in a little bit of a sense of, kind of picking back off our previous conversation in terms of cultural identity, I think there's a lot of people who will resonate with Brandon's story, but then also, like I was saying before, just resonate with the facts of like, this is a different type of representation for Black folk, especially for Black folk from certain states, from certain parts of the country. How do you, and this question for both of you, kind of see your own cultural identity and history as a Black man in America through different themes or aspects of this film?
I'll go real quick and I tee it up to Brandon. I'd say Brandon is Black history in the making. If we look back in our past, we know that there was a deep history of rural country life, agricultural life, from the days of the antebellum days of slavery into the new frontiers. And so this is nothing new. The Black cowboy, the Black horseman, the rancher was always been there throughout history. So this idea of kind of bringing it back to the fold, as we urbanize ourselves into these different cultures, whatnot, we kind of forget that. And so he is kind of a relic of the past, but more so a past that doesn't necessarily have to go away. And there is a place for landowners and those who are building a kind of different urban agriculture experience.
My take on is that at one point everything was agriculture, right? Everybody, at one point your yard had to be your food source. So I think when they start making these cities, they're stripping us of being sovereign, independent. I, as a who I am, I want to be sovereign, independent. I don't want to have to depend on the government for everything. Especially after me being in the system, I've seen that the government, if you don't play by, is you don't even have to do a real crime. Like you don't have to be violent or drugs. Just by you attending to the land and doing cattle, you're a problem, right? Because it's obvious if you start focusing on this and then somebody else start focusing on this, what you really need us for? Everything else is fun. Getting a Rolex and going to Las Vegas, that's extra. The main thing is feeding yourself and housing yourself. So if you're not if you're not to deal with the land and you got knowledge and I pass that information down, then I really don't need, it's like being Native American, right? The story about Thanksgiving. They really didn't need them, right? That they tricked them. You know what I'm saying? And they said they got the land. What they need you to come here and teach them. We could teach you how to grow and how to live within this territory. And being that I am from a city, my heart and my spirit is still, I still believe in that. Live off the land, live in a small territory. I was just riding the other day. Let me give you like a monitor. I just went to Rolling Out. Rick thing was at Georgia World Congress. So I went, right? I ride the horse there, of course. The police. Oh, the horse can't come on the property. But Waymo can. And I literally told them, I said, so I'm a risk. And you see how calm the animal is. And it's one horse. But you got 5 Waymos, self-driving vehicles. And I'm the problem. But in their mind, see, they the 85%. This is how it is now. We'll rather trust a computer that we have seen on TV has malfunction, right? But you're a major risk. And it's like, man, these people are really, the majority of the world is like confused on like what should be accepted and not. And I'm not being biased. I'm just saying all facts. How many horse accidents have you heard of? And how many Tesla accidents have you heard of worldwide? Right? So I shouldn't be allowed on certain places because I don't have maybe I should get a self-driven robotic horse, by Elon Musk, and then it's like then it be accepted. It doesn't make sense. We use horses in riots, right?
True.
And it's okay, right? Mardi Gras was just this week, Fat Tuesday, right? I don't think the horse says, hey, take me into this hostile environment so I can trample over people if they get violent. Just to keep you sitting high so you won't get caught in the crowd. I don't think canines wake up in the morning and say, let me loose to pursue a perk and he may pop me. But these are the things that that the world considers okay and normal. And it's like, and it make it seem like I'm a weirdo or outdated or something wrong with me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and it's clear in their face, right? It's clear as day. You know what I'm saying? Then they'll have a funeral for the dog, like Officer K911 died today. Yeah, because you taught it to go chase somebody and you used its ability to do what you couldn't do. That's why the animal died. There's no other reason. You as the human, as the government, made it okay. And you have people that actually donate to the canine department or to the mounted patrol. Wealthy people, knowing what they putting the animal through. But I could just be riding and I'm a problem.
Yeah, he's
It's
a black.
because the image, it's the image of, it goes back to way back when the brown man was on the horse. That was a symbol of a free man,
Mhm.
right? That's why when you see movies like Django and stuff, and they say they look at him because when you ride in that horse and when you speak to me, what you got to do? You got to look up,
Mhm.
right? So if I'm riding back in the day and I'm a free man going through the town and someone else of a different background have to acknowledge me, he got to submit. Like, how you
Right.
doing, sir? It's a psychological, royal
Yeah.
image, right?
And even added to that, Jada, imagine when we came as filmmakers coming up with cameras onto 27 acres of land, it even raised up our concept of what wealth is. So to have a guy not only tends to horses, his own horses at that, and he has all this land to work with. I mean, it raised my question. Even throughout the process of this documentary, like, am I living right? Do I got it together, right? And here's the guy who's unencumbered, no boss, doesn't have to, answer up to anyone, and that's what our cameras wanted to capture. It was this sense of what freedom really is in our current times in United States of America. So that's what Brandon is.
Yeah, freedom is not, you know, I mean, everybody has their interests of what they feel they could bring to me. I'm about equality, freedom. Um, those are like the core foundations of me. So if I got the information, then what we need medicine for, I'm just saying, the earth is here to heal us, period. Even if you're religious, right?
Mhm.
Medicine manipulates herbs, right? So if we teach the kids early of how important the earth is and everything, we probably could not stop everything, but we probably could stop a few problems that we have. So
Right.
a
Absolutely.
person like me, I understand why it's a problem. It goes back to, I'm not religious, but Jesus was a problem, right? And it's like, why is this guy a problem? Because he's doing what we don't want everybody else to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm just trying to be in America, the land of the free, and live my life freely within my territory, be able to ride horses, which we can ride now, and not be looked upon as a problem. But the problem is not a criminal problem. The problem is a jealousy, uh, hatred, envious. That's really the underlying emotion that drives the picking up the phone, the arrest. It's really like he said, hey, am I living the right life? No, you chose to be a cop, not me, because you got 5 kids. You have to do what you got to do to survive. Now, I don't have that issue, so I should be able to live my life freely because it's not harming anyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my
At, at
goal
the
is
at the
to
end of the day, what is the role of government in our society? Are they there to help bridge gaps when things kind of go awry, and if someone like himself who needs education on different agriculture aspects, or are they more imposers and those we have to submit to? So that was also a pondering question throughout this documentary.
yeah,
Yeah.
So how
government
do you
doesn't really go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how do you approach? It seems like there's a lot of different themes and takeaways, maybe even like underlying messages throughout it, or it's like you got to really pay attention. So, I mean, in telling the story, how did you, I guess, maybe even figure out the best way to kind of hit these different marks? And then also, I mean, I'm interested to know what other maybe characters or aspects of the film that we didn't see in that teaser.
Okay. It was just that the wonderful thing in documentary filmmaking is that it has all these underlying themes, and then so much of it is picked up in different ways from different audiences, and viewers take different things from it, different takeaways. And it was just that we wanted to tell an authentic story, a story stripped away from the glitz and glam of what we think this urban agricultural life is about. And by getting into the layers of what justice and inequality and legality is concerned with, is just how Brandon kind of moved within those guises, when those pathways. And he's won some and he lost some, and And the thing about this document is it's still happening as we speak. You know, one of our challenges was like, how do we end this? You know, this is still pending. Me and you can go to the court, you know, his 27 acres and he's still building, he's still going at it. And so, you know, not all documentaries come with answers, and it can even better to even bring some questions along the way. And one of the things that we find in reception to this document is people have come up to us and says, you know, how can we help, or how can we assist, and just kind of finding their way of being part of this story, this ongoing story. Because in many ways, it's the same local neighbors, folks that live down the street from him that, you know, either has an issue with him or wants to help him, right? And it's just really that aspect of it. And so telling a story like this, it gives it its rawness that it needs. We're not doctoring any type of focus and shifting an ideology or a propaganda aspect to it, but just telling a real simple story. A guy who just wants to ride horses and build on his land, and why does he have to go through all of this unnecessary stuff? And so it's about that, and I think that's one thing that people appreciated that we did.
So what's the one, I guess, what's the one thing when I speak to people, I say, what's the one thing that the government cannot print? They could print books, they could print prescriptions. What can they not print? They can print registration, license plates, badges, labels.
The one thing that God gave us, land.
They can't, it was here, it was here. So either that's why from the beginning of the time, it's always been a power thing, because it was here is here. It can't be duplicated. Either I'm going to take it and control it for my benefit, or I'm going to learn to live amongst the people on it. But I can give you new currency every day. I could say my great-great-grandmother, I believe she was 19 something. At 13, 12, she was a woman back then. That's everybody. Back then, people were getting married and having kids at 12, right? So nowadays, what's the difference? The longer we live, the longer they start stripping us away from, when I say they, the government, they start stripping us away from how we naturally supposed to live. And once we move away from how we naturally supposed to live, then we become chaotic on the land. And then us as the government, we get to sit there and capitalize. We get to put you in jail and make you make underwear for Victoria's Secret, make these sweatpants for Walmart. We get to now put a lien on your house, right? So if you can't govern your own mind, then the government, that's why it's called government, in my opinion, right? They're governing your mental. They're telling you how to think and when to think it, right? So when you deal with a free man who's not buying to all these things, it's like when one time I tried to apply for a job, long time ago. And they said, what you been doing for the past 10 to 15 years of your life? I said, I just figured it out. I never got a call back, because now they know he may wake up tomorrow and say, I don't need this job, right? So when you position yourself to be independent, it's like, how can I control you? If I can't scare you by telling you we're going to take your kids or this or that, it's like, how can I make you move how I want you to move? You know, so if it wasn't me, it would probably happen to somebody else. Only thing I say about me is different is that I'm not in Oklahoma, and I'm not generational. So that's what I feel like, it's nobody in my lane. And if it is someone out there like me, then I'd love to meet them or her. But it's nobody that comes from my environment that I know in the United States of America that has lived the regular life, right, and then switched over. I don't know nobody that has been arrested and just for trying to do, just by trying to build a ranch. Like, I don't know nobody. All these other guys, like Oklahoma Cowboys, and they're from that territory where it's common. You see what I'm saying? Like,
and Jada, and adding to the government aspect of it, it's also on the other side of that, of us as citizens. So in a democracy where we do have a say in our local government, local, state, and federal government, is that we can dictate how policy should be brought down, or how policy should be dictated. And so when we see a county or even a city jurisdiction treat Brandon in this kind of way, it says a lot about ourselves as well. Are we letting this go? Are we signing off on this?
Mm-hmm.
And it's self-reflective on the society that we live in. And so that question of democracy and government, relationship with the government and what role they have, is a very powerful thing, especially now that we're in the times that we're in.
That reminds me of a conversation I had with someone else that made that same point, Adelin, about, what as Black people, what are we giving, or what's being taken away and what are we giving away? So, and I think that's, to this point, that's a lot of things to think about, because even a different story, when we're talking about how neighborhoods kind of evolve with time, it's like, well, if you would have kept your house or like the family home or the family land way back in 19 whatever, then maybe right now this and this wouldn't be happening. So
exactly,
a lot of layers.
Yeah.
So on a closing note, I would love for you both to just kind of answering that question you brought up earlier about what can the community do? I mean, what sort of solutions or alternatives are there to this challenge or these challenges?
I think they could just, in my community, just look in the mirror and say, why am I mad at him because he's doing something I'm not doing? I think it's simple. Just mind your business and just, because nothing I'm doing is coming out of that 27 acres. Like, I don't create bombs. I don't have a strip club there. I'm not selling liquor. I'm just living within my space. And why is the focus on me? Because I could say, hey, I don't like a club being across the street from me. I don't want to hear jazz music. I don't want people to smoke cigars and be here on the weekend. I don't bother them when they across the street. You know what I'm saying? So I think people have to learn to allow the people to live their lives and stop judging and pointing the finger because it may look different than yours. Because I may not like how you live your life, but you don't see me coming, calling them saying, hey, I do not like the smell coming out that house right now. I don't know what she cooking or he cooking, but I don't like it. It's making me sick, right? So everything we eat on our table comes from a farm, hopefully. So why should we not? So why should we not like the raw process of getting it from the farm to the table?
Right.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. We'll go to Longhorn and forget how did it get here. It's called Longhorn at the end of the day. The name of the place called Longhorn. Google it. Google what Longhorn is. They didn't name it that.
And the one thing, and the one thing, Jada, too, is our social media has been prolific with folks who's DMing us, reaching out to us in the conversation. How can we help? How can we help? And anything short of fundraising and raising solicited funds for it. He has a nonprofit on his property. It's also the case that we can also, have people who believe in his vision and wants to kind of be part of what he's trying to build on the ranch and getting that going. But another thing to say about the documentary, we are on the festival circuit. We hitting a couple of colleges as well. Along our tour, we premiered last fall. And Washington, D.C., shout out to Washington, D.C. It's the first time we took the documentary outside of Metro Atlanta, outside the state of Georgia, and being well received at that. And so shout out to the Gathering Spot, shout out to Howard University. They received us. Brandon, the team was up there. He brought his horses, and it was a whole extravaganza, the whole event. So we thank you for that.
I would have loved to see the horses. Soon, yes. Well, I mean, in the meantime, for those of us who did miss last week's, how can we watch this film?
So right now we're in the festival circuit, and so we're on the college circuit. So once we wrap up that, we'll eventually be on someone's streamer.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. It was wonderful hearing not just your story, but just in general, raising attention to a lot of conversations I think go overlooked in the Black community and in general. So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.